I'll go farther than Friedman. Eric Cantor and his Republican Party are the most dangerous demagogic force in American politics since Joe McCarthy. And that's what this is about. And it's about the parts of the Republican Party that are willing to appease this awful force. And I think what we're seeing is a redefinition and understanding of Barack Obama's presidency, which is to protect the national security from this dangerous demagogic element that is on the precipice of really having a kind of power that's ruinous in America and ruinous to democracy. And the appeasement of people like McConnell and like Boehner to this force in your party. I'd like to know what you think about this.
Well, let me say a word. It's my party, too.
Let's go back to Joe McCarthy.
Well, let's go back to Joe McCarthy. Let's go back to Joe McCarthy for a minute, Carl.
Okay.
The president said, the president said a month ago.
I was just going to say, this is how easy it is. This is what I was going to do. Bill Kristol.
You knew what you got.
The president... Let's
get us to this table. You know what you got.
The president a month ago said, red line in Syria, we need to go to war in Syria. What did John Boehner and Eric Cantor, these demagogues whom you so despise, what did they do? They supported the president.
Correct.
They said, was that McCarthyite? Did they demagogue it? No. So that's an incredibly cheap shot.
No, let's stop there about cheap shots. Just a minute, Bill. Let's stop about cheap shots. I think Obama did a stupid thing about saying a line in the sand. And I think he backtracked because he knew it was not a wise move.
Well, I'm just saying the leadership of the Republican Party.
You said let's stop with the cheap shots. I would suggest that when you said that Eric Cantor and the Republicans were the most dangerous thing to happen. His Republican Party was the most dangerous thing to happen to American politics since Joe McCarthy called out communists in the State Department, Hollywood, and government. And the Truman and the FDR administration, some people would take that as an insult.
Well, they might, except he did more than that.
That's not a cheap shot?
No, I don't think so. I think Joe McCarthy's historic
I'm talking about
role...
Eric Cantor.
I think they're very comparable, because I think they deal not from fact, but from wild accusations that are not part of
What's the wild accusation?
The wild accusation is that the government and the people of this country are going to be in hell if we have...
Is that a quote?
Can I finish? If we have this kind of health care. This is somewhat equivalent. Let's go back and look at the passage.
The Republicans are trying to suspend two parts of the health care law, delay one for 1 year and get rid of one part.
Fine, let them try to delay it.
They did try to.
Let them try to delay it without shutting down the government, the national parks.
They passed
as Eleanor Helms Norton is saying, let them do it without this kind of demagoguery, without this horrible effect.
She was talking to the...
She was actually saying that they could keep
DC open. I understand what Eleanor
the Republicans voted to
saying.
keep the federal government going. Do you understand how a continuing resolution works? I mean,
wait a minute. They voted to begin with. Their object here. Come on, Bill. Let's be straight.
They passed the suspension of the individual mandate 2 months ago on the floor of the House. The 22 House Democrats voted for it. Has that been brought to a vote in the U.S. Senate?
No.
No. So what are they supposed to do? They're trying to help improve our health care by suspending this stupid individual mandate. And then Harry Reid will not bring it up to a vote.
If we're going to look at senatorial procedure and 60 votes, come on.
Carl, you're obviously...
Which I'm on your side about.
Carl, this is the first time I could actually say this in the history of Morning Joe. Carl, you're actually outnumbered by conservatives this morning, and I understand that. But can you at least admit to me, as we're talking about how dysfunctional Congress is, because you did a lot of work on this.
I'm doing a TV series about it.
Yes, of course you are. Can you admit
they're awful, both sides.
I was going to say, can you not admit that it's also a serious problem that Democrats haven't passed in the Senate a single appropriations bill this year? Yes.
Absolutely.
Listen, Bill and I will agree with you.
Yes.
Bill and I will agree with you, I think, that Republicans, like the Wall Street Journal said, they shouldn't have boxed themselves in this way. It was a stupid thing to do. But, you know, as Meacham said, quoting Shakespeare, a plague on both their houses. Not a single appropriation bill has been passed out of Harry Reid's Senate.
I agree with you totally, except in terms of proportionality. The proportion in what we're talking about here in terms of what one force is willing to do and the other are quite different.
Okay.
And that's saying that, look, I think a lot of the Democratic Party in Congress is brain dead. But that is different from the kind of demagoguery that we have seen and the kind of oppositional politics to undermine Barack Obama in the, and overwhelm the national interest, going back to when the Eric Cantor Republicans took the economic plan of Barack Obama and decided that Bernanke, who was George Bush's appointee, the hell with him, the hell with saving the economy, let's go with this austerity program like Clinton has had.
Obama controlled both houses of Congress, and the plan passed, and the Republicans weren't allowed to vote against it. The Republicans weren't allowed to.
And they did, unanimously.
And they were right to do so. Can I make one other point?
By the way,
Ronald Reagan was reelected.
I think they should.
There's more than re-election involved.
I'm sorry, Ronald, you're saying it's like it's disloyal to oppose a president who's been re-elected.
No, it's not
Ronald
disloyal.
Reagan was re-elected in 1984. I was happened to be chief of staff of the Education Department in 86 or 87. Tip O'Neill had a disagreement with the Democratic Congress, and the government shut down for a couple of days. No one thought that Tip O'Neill was disloyal, was being like Joe McCarthy. There were budget fights. There were fights on legislative priorities.
But were there fights over gutting or repealing laws, and do you really agree with that, going this far to... what's the precedent for this? We've been asking. No one can think of one.
What's the principle, Bill?
The principle is that the president suspended the employer mandate, and he will not let the Senate vote. The Senate will not give him a vote on suspending the individual mandate. And is it unreasonable to add that to the procedure? But I wouldn't have done it. If I were dictator of the Republican Party, I would have had a different set of tactics
with
and
good
strategy.
reason.
But why can't they accept this as 1-year delay of the mandate and the congressional exemption?
Because first of all, let's go back to Social Security. When Roosevelt got Social Security, let's say that the Republicans in the House of Representatives decided to shut down the government rather than give us Social Security. Let's work with what this health care system is and try to make it work. If you want to suspend the individual mandate, let's see it pass both houses of Congress. Go ahead. But to do this, to have this kind of scorched earth politics that runs through everything Eric Cantor and this demagogic Republican Party has done is a disgrace. I think you can paint with a broad brush here because it's consistent. It's not about this individual thing.
It's not consistent. It's just not reality-based.
So, Bill,
go ahead and paint with a broader brush.
Guys, come on. This has been going on for 15 minutes.
Good.
Bill, let's talk for a second and pretend that Carl's not.